That voice you hear is my good friend, Charlie Gasparino. Did you know about the Irish thing?
I didn't know he was going over
No,
there.
well, he's not. So
I grew up with a lot of Irish guys, too.
Sure,
Family
sure.
over there.
Well, good to know.
And by the way, they love Trump, just so you know.
Absolutely. I wanted to touch base with you on the trade tit for tat and the tensions.
Right.
Because if China was apparently going to check with the WTO about slapping tariffs on us and checking with them first, but separately, Boeing is bragging about all these China plane purchases the next couple of decades, I guess, north of $1.3 trillion. So weird vibes.
What's going on here is that the Chinese are reaching out to corporate America to try to get them to essentially lobby the Trump administration on, against his China trade policies. And, it's interesting that he set up a meeting for the Chinese government set up a meeting with Wall Street firms for September 16th. Which was not, nominally, at least, Is
that at the time of the UN confab and all that?
I believe so, but it's nominally to, increase business relations, but it's really to and the Wall Street firms know this. It's really to enlist the firms to lobby the Trump administration against going into a trade war with China, since all these firms have so much business there. Now, here's what we know about that meeting. The firms themselves aren't too crazy about this idea. We do know that at least two major Wall Street executives are pulling out of the meeting. They're going to send number twos. We do know that Steve Schwartzman, the CEO of Blackstone, the big private equity firm, is not going to attend. I'll just get to that in a second. Sure. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, won't attend. Both citing scheduling conflicts, but it sounds like, from what I'm hearing inside the company, it's more like, listen, they don't want to be part of something where, if you look at it this way, if Jamie Dimon really has a problem with trade, he can call up Trump himself. He knows this stuff. He doesn't need to be part of a dog and pony show. Now, both JP Morgan and Blackstone and the other major banks, from what I understand, are going to send senior executives there. But those two are not going. That would be a pretty big statement if Dimon and Schwartzman went to this meeting. I mean,
but they've all of these guys and women have expressed concern that this could disrupt the very rally they credit the president.
They will, but they don't want to be.
They don't want to get in the middle of it. Right?
I mean, think about it: a Wall Street CEO lobbying Trump on behalf of the Chinese government.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, they do have lots of business over there. Blackstone has plenty of business in China. So does JP. So does all these firms, and they do well by U.S. companies having access to Chinese.
Who would be the Chinese? It's not Xi Jinping.
No, it's his number two. I can't remember his name.
So they're going to send number two. These guys feel they have cover to send a number two.
I don't think it's. I think they just don't want to be part of an overt lobbying effort. At least with
how
the CEO.
real do you think this is? China's the big trade thing. We can get something settled with Canada might in the next few days or weeks. But China's the real big worry.
Well, here's the thing and here's what the CEOs will tell you. China, we know, is a bad actor. Everybody knows it. If you give Peter Navarro one thing, which I think he's raised consciousness, and Donald Trump, is that just all the bad stuff that China does on trade, stealing of intellectual properties, no doubt. However, they have a huge market, and they're a booming economy, even as they slow down. And our major businesses want access to that economy. They want so much access to that economy that they were willing to give up intellectual trade secrets to gain access to it. So there's where the conflict is right now. They all want to do business there. It's good for these companies to do business there. The U.S. sells a lot of stuff into China, we should point out. We buy a lot of stuff, but we sell a lot of stuff.
Right.
The Trump administration makes a very good case about them being bad actors on an international trade, and now we're having a conflict, which I think of all the Trump's trade agenda, which some of it I think is insane, this is real. I mean, listen, China is a very bad actor. I mean, they violate human rights. The Journal had the Times today had a huge story about persecuting Chinese Muslims. I mean, this country acts. This is a totalitarian regime that we have to be very leery dealing with, and they want to steal our lunch. Okay, there's no doubt about that. Trump, give him credit, and Navarro for calling this to attention. But there is a business side of this story. We sell a lot of stuff there. And so now we get the conflict. And it's interesting that the Chinese go do an end round around Trump and Peter Navarro and Lighthizer and the trade people and go right to the Wall Street CEOs. And I can tell you, the two biggest CEOs, we should point out, Jamie Dimon runs the largest U.S. bank by assets. I believe Blackstone got to check me on this, is the biggest private equity firm. They're certainly at the top.
Right.
This is when big guys like that don't go. I mean, that's saying something, and they'll cite scheduling conflicts. But from what I understand inside these companies, that they just don't want to be part of an overt effort by the Chinese government to lobby Trump.
Every time I hear scheduling conflicts, it's a lie.
You know, it's baloney.
It's a lie.
Well, I mean, I don't understand. Well, Ireland, it might be true because. You know, why
you don't like the Irish?
No, I'm just saying, like,
no,
why would
that's an Italian snob.
Yes, thank you. Why would Trump Why would he diss
I don't
the
know.
Irish?
I don't understand. But this, where we don't know what happened. The calendar filled up. I remember we did this with the Canadians of the trade thing. By the way, it looks like they're back at the talks
with Canada.
With Canada. So, how do you think that's all going to work?
Listen,
out?
I think it's all. You know, listen, if you read Bob Woodward's book, the guy might sign an edict tomorrow, like cutting off the North American trade agreement. But I think they're smart enough to know that that would damage the economy, and that my guess, when this is said and done, and, you know, listen, I could be completely wrong, is that it'll be a lot of chest pounding, and Donald will say, oh, I got the greatest trade deal, biggest ever. In 100 years, and it'll be some good stuff, but very marginal. Both sides will claim victory, and we'll move on. That's what I think. The China thing is different because he's right about them. They're kind of evil. You know, what their grand master
plan is. People won't hear you trash you for being an ever-Trumper and a hater. They will not hear the remark you just made. They will not hear the fact that you're a fair and balanced journalist.
Fair, balanced, unafraid.
No, sometimes it's probably just as well. All right. Thank you, buddy.
The greatest trade deal in a gazillion, bajillion, a million years. Okay. Is my Trump impersonation?
It's a little James Cagney-ish, and I think that's
but it's getting better,
insulting
right?
to James Cagney.
Donald yesterday did give me props for making it better.
Okay,
better.
Good to hear. All right. Thank you, my friend.